He's clean yet? Hey everyone, how's it going? Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Hope you're all having an awesome week. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Maan and I am a writer and a reader based here in Dubai in the UAE. I have had an incredibly busy week. It is the Emirates Airline Festival of Literature and I have been busy covering it for the paper. I have been meeting writers and authors and journalists and speaking to readers and other writers and going to panel discussions and talks. It's been really exciting. I'm doing another video next week to tell you about all the authors that I met and the amazing books that I picked up. They're pretty good. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the 4 books that I read in February. 2 of these books are a bit different than what I usually read. I'm always reading fiction and specifically novels and or short stories, but I picked up 2 non-fiction books this month. Last month, this is March now. Well, I'm gonna go through all those books with you guys right now, and the first one is Men of Style by Josh Sims, printed by Lawrence King Publishing. Ta-da! Cool cover, yeah? I'm into fashion, I'm into fashion history. I worked for a period of time in fashion publishing. I also worked when I first graduated as a fashion photographer, so I definitely have an interest in the subject. So it was rare for me to come across a book about specifically men's fashion and men's fashion history. There are a lot of books and a lot of blogs that are dedicated to women's fashion and women's fashion history and contemporary fashion when it comes to them, but it's rare to find a book about men's fashion, and I found this one to be quite comprehensive and really interesting because it is specifically about iconic men that we know or have heard of. For example, there is David Bowie. Who else is in here that I really enjoyed reading about? There is Michael Caine, the actor. There is Miles Davis, the jazz musician. There is Ralph Lauren, James Dean, Truman Capote, David Hockney. I was gonna say David Duchovny, the guy from X-Files. No, David Hockney, the very famous painter. I love his work. Jimi Hendrix, whose style is so awesome. Cool, right? And with each chapter on each guy, there are specific details about their style and what they liked and how they wore clothes and why they wore them in the way that they did. There is one guy they missed out from this though, and that is Mr. Sidney Poitier. I think he would have been a great addition to this book because this is not really about men in fashion. It's about men from all different realms of society, actors, singers, athletes, businessmen who had their very own specific style. A really cool guy that I discovered in this book that I'd never heard of before is Gianni Angeli. He has incredibly cool style. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but he used to like to wear his watch over his cuff, which I thought was really cool. And this photo here, I'm not sure if you can see, but he used to like to wear like boots with his suit. I really enjoyed the chapter on Winston Churchill and Gary Cooper and Sammy Davis Jr. and also one of the best ones is about David Bowie. Now the author Josh Sims, I've never heard of him. I looked him up. I have a habit of stalking authors that I really like and trying to find their presence online, but I really couldn't find Josh Sims. If you guys have heard of him, let me know. So yeah, if you are interested in men's fashion history, I highly recommend you pick this book up. It's an easy read and it has some great imagery and you get to be a bit more knowledgeable about men's fashion. So that was a really cool way to start the month of February, but the next book that I picked up was also another one that I found by coincidence. The Boatmaker by John Benditt, and it is printed by Tin House Books. Ta-da! Now, I came across this book by complete coincidence. I was in the bookstore looking for something completely different when the cover art of this book really grabbed my attention. It's a wood block print of a man on a boat in front of a big sea looking up at a glowing moon. The pages inside actually feel like recycled paper, and if you look very closely on the edges, I'm not sure if you can see that, they are actually perforated. It's quite a nice object, very beautiful, and so when I read the book blurb as well, I thought this is a story that I would definitely get into, so I purchased it. Let me read you guys the very first sentence of the book. Glasses, very important. The man of small island is dreaming of a wolf. The boatmaker, who is never named as anything else but the boatmaker, is getting over a very bad fever and has a dream of a wolf guiding him to leave the island. As soon as the boatmaker recovers from his fever, he has this obsession to build a boat and to leave Small Island, which is where he's from. Now, Small Island is a place that is full of people who are living in poverty, getting drunk most of the time, or getting into fights. Boatmaker decides to build this boat and leave Small Island and explore the big wide world. world. He leaves behind his estranged parents who have a very strange relationship with him and with each other ever since the death of his younger brother who drowned. He also leaves a woman who is madly in love with him. Now, when the boatmaker arrives on Big Island, he comes across a lot of different ideas and concepts and principles that he was not used to or has not been in touch with living in Small Island. When the boatmaker arrives on the Big Island and the main island, he is confronted with different ideas that he's not used to when it comes to class, when it comes to money, when it comes to government. He's swept up in this massive religious movement that's almost like a cult. He's involved in a very negative and destructive love affair, and he is experiencing racism and prejudice in a way that he's never experienced it before. The character of the boatmaker himself I found really intriguing because we never really understand his intentions. We just know that he's following this prophecy or this dream that he had, and we're never really truly in his head. We never understand why he gets involved in this relationship or why he is so enamored by this religious cult. We just experiencing the ride with him. In a lot of ways, this story is one that we've heard hundreds of times in folktales and fables and religious texts about man trying to go on a journey to discover something that is bigger than himself, and in the end kind of just learns more about life, I guess. It is a really interesting, intriguing story. John Benditt, I feel like I'm saying Benditt like Beckham. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But John Benditt, this is his debut novel. He was a science journalist from what I understand. He writes in a very clear, direct way. He doesn't go into too much detail, but in saying that, he creates some really interesting imagery, and there are some great themes and great ideas in the actual writing as well. So I do recommend you guys pick this up and read it. It's a very slow-paced story, but I actually enjoyed that in this case. The third book that I read in the month of February is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, printed by Penguin. Ta-da! I absolutely love this book. It is such a gem. Mohsin Hamid is the author of The Reluctant Fundamentalist. I really enjoyed that book. I haven't seen the movie yet. I heard it's not that great, but this book is definitely one that you have to read. Actually, let me read you guys the first sentence. In a city swollen by refugees, but still mostly at peace, or at least not yet openly at war, a young man met a young woman in a classroom and did not speak to her. We've all been there. It is about two characters, Saif and Nadia, who live in an unnamed city which could be anywhere in the Middle East or maybe South Asia. They meet and begin this relationship just as their city is experiencing extreme civil unrest from religious fanatics. First quarter or first half of this book really shows you what happens to a city and families and people when civil unrest and war starts to happen. You see them changing, their routines are turned upside down, their homes, which are usually a place where they feel safe, is not a place they feel safe anymore. Places like windows where you look out and see the view of the world turns into a place where you can easily get killed. The second half of this book deals with ideas of globalization and immigrants and refugees because Nadia and Saif decide to leave their town or their city to find a better and more peaceful place to live. The novel has a very strong element of magic realism, which I really appreciated. I'm a really huge fan of magic realism. What happens in the book is that these portals start to open. They're kind of like doors that can lead a person from where they are to a completely different city, a completely different country within a matter of seconds. This is how Nadia and Saif decide to leave where they are, and these portals are opening up everywhere around the world. So all of a sudden they are in a situation where they are grouped with hundreds of other immigrants and refugees that are all trying to escape where they're from. So there's a major culture clash, and there are all these people from all around the world who can easily travel, interacting with one another, living in the same space as one another, and it really exaggerates or puts into focus these ideas of globalization, immigration, and the current refugee crisis that we're having, and what is the moral and correct way to deal with people who are displaced in the world. Mohsin Hamid is such a great author, and that really shows in this book by the characters of Nadia and Saif. We get to know them in the beginning of the book, but then we see their characters change as they're interacting with different races, different values, different systems, and how they're treated as refugees or as immigrants. And seeing that personality change in them was really reminiscent to me as an immigrant, and seeing that happening and occurring in a lot of people that I know that have experienced being immigrants and refugees. Mohsin Hamid is very great at character and really great at expressing people's personal journeys as well. He also does something really, really difficult, and he does it very well, which is he writes these very long sentences, which could be hard to follow to some people, but he does it in such a way that you kind of don't lose where you are in the sentence. And he also brings in other stories of other people who are experiencing these portals or these doors metaphors without taking away from the main theme or idea of the story. Definitely worth reading. It's not a very long book. It is, for lack of a better word, just perfect for a novel. The fourth book that I read in February is probably my favorite book so far of the year. Letters to a Young Muslim by Omar Saif Ghobash, and it is published by Picador Publishing. Ta-da! I wish that I had this book in my hands when I was 16, just after 9/11. It would have been such a massive help for me. Omar Saif Ghobash is the ambassador of the UAE to Russia. He speaks a whole bunch of languages, I don't know which ones, I forgot now, and he is very well read. He writes beautifully. And this book specifically, it's his first book, it's non-fiction. It comprises of letters that he's writing to his 16-year-old son about what it means to be a Muslim in today's modern and digital world. In the letters that he wrote to his son, Omar Ghobash talks about a lot of really fundamental issues and problems facing Islam from the outside world and from within Islam. In a very concise manner, he discusses ideas on what it means to be a good Muslim, on the history of Islam and how it's affecting how we view Islam and how we practice Islam in today's day and age. He speaks about his own relationship with religion and how losing his father at a very young and in a very violent manner has shaped how he viewed the world. What's really great about this book is that Omar Ghobash brings up some really important points and issues on Islam. For example, how can moderate Muslims all unite from all different cultural backgrounds to have one common voice for Islam? He also asks Muslims to take responsibility for all the negative and extreme versions of Islam and to show how to be good Muslims, not so much by simply saying this is not Islam or this is Islam, but by our actions. With a combination of common sense and very clear and intimate writing, we get a glimpse into Omar Ghobash experiences and life that is actually very universal. It's really a great internal monologue and something that I think anyone can understand and take something away from, whether you're a young Muslim or an old Muslim or someone who's simply interested in Islam. I definitely 100% recommend that you read this book. I've had some really interesting conversations and discussions with other Muslims about the ideas and the issues this book brings forward. I think this book is so important and it's so relevant today, given the fact that Muslims all around the world are put under the microscope and are asked a million questions about their religion, given the fact that there is so much negative and divisive jargon and rhetoric out there about Muslims and about our region and about the Middle East. You need to educate yourself if you're a Muslim or if you're interested in Islam, and I think a great way to start is to read books like this, which are incredibly rare. I was also really excited because yesterday I got to meet Omar Ghobash and I interviewed him for the paper. He's a very personable, charming, friendly guy, very intelligent. I wouldn't say that I fangirled or I fanboyed around him, but I kind of tried to maintain a very professional face, even though I was kind of a little tiny bit starstruck. I think I said some really stupid things by accident. I was really awkward, I assume. I was listening over the interview because I had it recorded on a dictaphone, and I just cringed at some things that I said. So that's life. What are you gonna do? So that's it from me, guys. What are you reading? Would you read any of these books that I recommended? If you have, please message me, contact me below in this video. Let me know what your thoughts are about it. I love talking about books. I love talking about authors and writers. You can contact me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or my website, Man of the Hour. I am Maan Jalal on all of those different platforms. I'm really excited about the next video I'll be doing for you guys next week about the books that I picked up from the Emirates Literature Festival. I'm also doing another video for you guys next week, which is about a really intriguing issue when it comes to reading. Look at me just making videos left, right, and center. Anyway, have a great day. I hope you learned something new today. If not about books, then about me. Please join me in the journey of reading and let me know what you guys are reading so we can discuss it. Have a great day and an amazing weekend. See you guys. Bye. What is this? Am I like an air hostess? Air waiter? I'll see you guys soon. Ciao.